Hello and welcome to this new video. Today we are going to talk about EndeavourOS. Have we found the best Arch Linux experience? Coming up. So EndeavourOS, a lot of people have been asking it in the comments. So yes, I'm going to talk about my experience testing it and what I think about it. So let's just start as usual with the install experience, which was great. Well, it's a standard install. You have an ISO that is 2.9 gigs, which is pretty small. You have the option to install offline and online, which is fun. By default, it uses ext4 for its file system, and you know how I love my ext4, so that's a great thing. Now, the only little issue that I can say, just before I get into that, you can choose your desktop, so you can go with KDE, GNOME, and a bunch of other desktop. You can also choose your bootloader, and that's where I had a little problem. By default, it uses systemd boot, and for some reason it didn't work on my system. I found Grub to be a little bit more universal, so maybe the choice of bootloader isn't really the best one, because systemd can have problem with, well, a lot more configuration, let's just say it that way. Now, it's not a big problem, I just had to reinstall using the right bootloader, and you know that my computer seems to have a lot of exotic mistakes for some reason, so we can probably shove this under the rug. Yeah, that's pretty much all that there was to the install. No other problem, no other issues. I really like the fact that we could choose between that much interface and that it was pretty simple to do. It was the same installation that CachyOS did, which I liked, so it's a good for both. Now, let's go into the experience of using EndeavourOS. Using EndeavourOS is pretty much standard. That's the word that will come back 500 times today because, well, it does everything in a standard fashion. Okay, so for people that have never went through installing their own Arch from scratch, what will happen when you install your Arch is that you will make your first install. It will be absolute garbage because you don't know which package to install. You install a bunch of things that you don't need and you install a bunch of things that don't work well. You will reinstall and try again and do that a couple of times, and after 2, 3, 4, 5 times of reinstalling your Arch, well, you will end up with a good result. You will end up with something that looks good. Now, what's fun with EndeavourOS, it really feels as if you're already at that 5th install. But there's nothing more than that. It's not fancy, you don't have optimization, you don't have crazy things like all of the other distros that I've tested. But you have a bog standard Arch install, as if you worked for it, 14 times. And that's, for me at least, it's a really great thing, because I don't like having extra flashy things or extra optimization on my system. I like things to be standard, and then myself, adding those optimization if I want them. Because most of the time, like we've seen with all of those distros, optimization are extremely dependent on what you want to do with your machine. So having a EndeavourOS install your computer in that much of a standard fashion, well, it's good. Now, EndeavourOS isn't only and strictly only a standard install. It also adds a few welcome menus with some resources to be able to install some program and also understand how it works. It also adds some commands that are convenient, I think. So you have NVIDIA-install that give you an easy install and update for your NVIDIA proprietary driver. You have a bunch of commands that they added, but one that I found funny was grub-color-choose, chooser, which enables you to change the grub color at the start, which is a fun thing. But yes, they have their little menu with their little things, but in the install, if you don't want them, you can even disable them. You can disable all the customization that EndeavourOS does to your system to have really something that is as standard as possible if you don't want those little extras. So really, there's not much to say about EndeavourOS because they thought about everything. Bluetooth works, of course. You have printers that at least there's an interface by default. They have everything that is supposed to be there is there, and there's nothing to say more than that. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just standard, and I must say that I really like it. If I had to use an Arch, an Arch-based distro, it would be Endeavour. And that's the price that I'm going to give it today. Because we found our gaming distro, which was Regatta. Now we've found our Arch distro, which we could put in a little sliver of trying to become advanced user. So if you're coming from Ubuntu and you want the Arch experience, you want to, let's use a correct language and say trick around your system, have some fun around with the system. You can start your Arch journey through Endeavour, which will give you the simplest way to install your Arch. Now, of course, there's always a lot of knowledge to be gained by breaking your system around by installing Arch from scratch. So if you want to go a little bit more in the advanced space, yes, you should install Arch from scratch. It's always a fun thing, but Endeavour gives you a finished product that is actually usable without much bug. Now, like I said, I'm never going to say that an Arch is easy to use and beginner friendly, because I don't really like the idea of rolling releases, and that's something that will trigger some people. I don't care if you're into rolling releases, have fun, but those things are unstable. Everybody knows about that. Just come back to reality. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. There's nothing to say about Endeavour. It's really standard. Like I said, there's nothing else to say. It's standard. It's not flashy. It's fun that way. We like stability, just like Ubuntu is standard, not flashy, and we like it that way. Well, Endeavour is standard and not flashy. We like it that way. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed. We're gonna probably have a lot more to say in those next videos. I have a few different projects to go on, because right now reviewing distros is fun, but I want to diversify the content a little bit. So we're gonna have a little bit more fun, maybe for those beginners that want to become a little bit more advanced. We're gonna have content for you guys, and for all of the other, you're gonna be able to judge me while I do it, which is even funnier. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed, and of course, take care.